Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Anne Sullivan. I am founder of Harp Mastery, and welcome to this quick little talk and Q&A session. I have some information I wanted to share with you, something I think we ought to be talking about, and then I'll have some time to take your questions. If you are here, go ahead and let me know. I would love to know that you're here and watching, and I'll be happy to take questions as they come. Lisa's here. Good morning, Lisa. So, well, it's not still morning here for me. I know it is for you. I'm noontime here, but this is okay. So, I have a question that was asked of me not long ago, and it's a question that comes up from time to time, and it's one that I think feels very natural to us to ask, and it's one that is really hard to answer for any number of reasons, and it's one that sort of always rubs me the wrong way, and I wanted to tell you why. So that question is, when a student asks me, well, what should I be doing next? Now, it's a pretty logical question. Okay, well, let me give you advice. I'm a teacher. This is what I do. I can tell you what I think you ought to be working on next, probably. But when that question comes from a place of, well, okay, so what is the next step? I've done this, and then the next thing is this, and the next thing is this. There's not an order to harp playing. I mean, I wish that there were a single continuum that we could say, okay, well, now you've done this, so we can check that box, and now you have to do this, and we check that box, and have it go along that way. But stuff isn't that easy. Harp playing certainly isn't that logical, and there's no one path to learning to play the harp, which I think is a good thing, because there are as many different paths toward playing the harp the way you want as there are harpists that are playing the harp and wanting to play the harp. This is a good thing. We need a multiplicity of approaches. So, who else do I have to say hello to? Oh, hello to Lori and hello to Joseph. Good morning and good afternoon and whatever time it is for you. So welcome. So and I'm so glad that you're here with me. Thank you very much. So we are talking about the difference here, I think, between what you should be doing and what you could be doing. I mean, I'm not a fan of the word should anyway, because it seems to have weight on it, like should, I have to do this, I need to do this. We all have those moments where we say, I should be practicing my scales, or I should be doing more technique work, I should be putting in more practice time. That kind of, there are lots of shoulds, right? I probably should play that passage more slowly, whatever it is. There are lots of shoulds, and we don't need to add more. Should has a weight to it. It's like, it's pressing us down. Could is a word that is opening us up to possibilities. And I think there's power in a word. I don't think that that's too fine a point to explore. I think could is something that opens us up. So if you remember that harp playing isn't about what you have to do or what you ought to do, what you should do, but harp playing is about what you can do, what you could do, what you could try, the possibilities and opportunities that are available to you. This is where we really want to go. And then what you can be thinking of is not necessarily what you have to do in order to make those things happen, but what you might need to try, the resources that you may need, the things you may need to develop to make that possible. I think that for me at least, and I know for a lot of people I've worked with, that single shift in language is enough to make a difference. But I'm going to give you 3 quick points that I think are important when it comes to turning around those shoulds and turning them into coulds. So that's step 1. Let's figure out how we turn that around. So instead of loading up on those, what should I be doing? I should be practicing more. I should be doing my scales. I should work more with the metronome. We'll take those 3 examples, right? What if instead you loaded yourself up with coulds? Consider this for a moment. If we're thinking about, oh, okay, I should practice more. Well, what could you do if you practiced more? If you practiced more, would you be able to do what? Would you be able to play a particular piece? Would you be able to have more time to do review? Would you be able to spend more time working on technique? What would practicing more allow you to do, enable you to do, help you do? What could you do? When you consider the possibilities, then all of a sudden paths open up. Instead of, oh, what do I have to do now? That path closes down. Here's another could example, right? And let's take the metronome one. If I could work better with my metronome, what would I be able to do better? What would I be able to do? Well, maybe if you could work with your metronome more, if your metronome became your friend, maybe one of the things you could do is you would be able to get more control over the pieces that you're learning, because you would be able to keep that rhythm steady. Maybe it would just be, you wouldn't have to guess if your rhythm was okay if you were keeping a steady tempo, because you would know. Maybe working with the metronome more would enable you to create time in order to get things correct, right? The metronome isn't just for speeding up. It can help us stay nice and slow so that we can make things more correct. Just a thought. Or if you could play your scales faster, what could you do more easily? Well, maybe this piece and this piece and this piece. You wouldn't have to worry perhaps about certain unevennesses in your playing. If your scales were faster, maybe you would learn to play overall faster if your scales were faster. So this is what I mean for step one here, as far as about turning coulds into shoulds. I think it's important, and I think it's a really good way to start thinking about not what you ought to be doing next, but what you might want to do next. Okay, we're getting to that one too. So here's step two. When somebody says, what should I be doing next? What am I supposed to be doing next? Realize that there isn't always one next. As I said before, there's more than one path. So maybe what you need to do is find another path. Instead of thinking about, well, let's see, the way I know how to play my scales faster is to work up and just keep, moving the metronome up notch by notch. Well, if that's what you want to do, that's okay. But maybe what you're really wanting to do is to learn to play faster, right? This was the could. If I could play my scales faster, maybe I could play everything faster. Well, if you want to learn to play faster, it's not just about doing your scales faster, although it could be. But it could also be about learning to work with the tempo pyramid, which I talk about, right? Where instead of just inching up the metronome, you've got sort of, very simply, you've got slow, medium, and fast tempos that you're working with all the time. Or maybe learning to play faster just means finally just picking a fast piece that you love and learning to play it. There are lots of ways to learn to play faster, not just playing your scales faster. All right, what about practicing more? You say, I can't practice anymore. My schedule's already too full. Trust me, I know about that. That's part of what I do. My schedule is very full, and I'm always looking for more practice time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But there are ways you can put more practice time in. You don't have to say, well, okay, instead of practicing an hour, I need to practice an hour and a half. That might not be the right answer for you. What if you had a 10-minute power session that you said, all right, I can take these 10 minutes before I'm ready to leave the house in the morning, or before I set the table for dinner, or before I do the dinner dishes. That's my favorite 10 minutes, by the way. put off those dishes as long as possible. So if I could find a 10-minute power session, what could I do with that? Could I review my piece? Could I use that for technique? Could I, what could I do with that? That can be an easy way to add practice time. Or frankly, you could just add 5 minutes onto the practice you're doing already. 5 minutes can make a difference if you use it with focus. If you decide to say, all right, let's see, 5 minutes more, what could I do? I could review a piece. I could work on that one line in this piece a few more times. Or I could try memorizing something, or I could sight read something. All those things that you want to do and you don't have time to do. Take 5 minutes, do just little chunks. Those little chunks add up. Speaking of chunks, another practice strategy that works really well for people who just can't sit at the harp, especially for a long period of time. It's like, well, I've got 2 hours in the day and I could practice from, 2 to 4 every afternoon, but I just can't sit there that long. I get bored, my body gets stiff, whatever it is. Well, try the Pomodoro technique, right? I've talked about this before where you might say, all right, I can practice for 20 minutes and then I'll take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break. Then I'll do another 20 minutes and I'll take a 10-minute break. That's fine. Schedule your practice the way that works for you. There is always another path, right? We just have to find it. Another path to working with a metronome, well, try using the metronome with your scales just to get used to it. Or use it with a piece that you know really, really well. Or just practice counting with it. If working with a metronome is hard for you, you don't have to say, well, but I'm supposed to work with the metronome with this particular piece and that's all I can do. It doesn't have to be that way. Choose the way that you work with it. And that way you're not, well, I ought to be using the metronome. I should be using the metronome. I need to learn to use the metronome. It's okay. I found a really easy way to start playing around with the metronome, making it my friend. But here's the most important thing I want you to think about. When we're talking about the question, what should I be doing next? I want you to change the question around. I want you to change it to, what do you want to do? Not what do you think you ought to be doing, but what do you really want to do? Remember, there's no single order of study that works for everybody, for everything, and it's a very good thing. So the best answer to the question of what you should be doing next is really the answer to the question, what do you want to do? And you don't have to think about it in terms of, well, let's see, I think I want to get better at playing my scales, because maybe you don't really want to do that. Maybe what you want to do, instead of getting better at playing arpeggios, for instance, is you really want to play the little fountain. Well, all right, so let's start playing the little fountain, and we're going to have to put all the attendant parts of that together. So you're going to have to get better at playing arpeggios to play the little fountain. But that doesn't mean that what you should be doing right now is studying arpeggios. That might end up being part of what you're doing to play the little fountain. But think about what you want to do. Whatever you want to do ought to be something that you really feel like you would enjoy, something you would really love. So what I want you to think about right now is to think about the difference between what you might have considered as something that you should do next or you ought to do next, and think about what you want to do next. So there's one of those questions that's worth thinking about. Another question that you could think about is, what do you think, if there's something that you think you should be doing, why do you think you should be doing it? And is there a bigger picture we can tie that into? Because when you're just working on something because you think you should is not necessarily the best way to go about this. So let's take a couple minutes and let's deal with your thoughts. If you can, if you want to just type in the comments, okay, this is where I am. This is what I think I should be doing next. And if you want me to check that, that's fine. I can do that. Or this is where I am. I don't know what I should be doing next. I need some ideas. I'm here for that. So think about what, if you have other questions, other harp related questions, that's good. I'm not good on any questions other than harp questions. I got a one-track brain sometimes. So, but please feel free to ask any of those kinds of questions. If you're like, well, this is what's giving me trouble, and how am I going to fix it? That could be part of this too. Well, what could we do to fix it? And we can look at some different paths to do that. If you're having problems with uneven fingers in a particular piece, it doesn't mean that you have to just go back to the beginning and work on your fingers. There are other ways to do this. So there are so many paths to things. And just remember that there's no one right order either. So what can I help you with? I'm here. I've got time for some Q&A. Whatever the Q's are, I'll try to come up with the A's for them. We can do that. If you have nothing that's on your harp mind, that's okay too. And I can always try to add something else for you to think about. Because if I can't help spur you onto a question, I think I'm slipping just a little bit. So I can certainly do that. Here's a question I have for you. If you were a person, imagine, I want you to help me help this imaginary harpist. Let me put it that way. So we have a harpist, and harpist comes to a lesson and says to her teacher, okay, great. I'm so excited because I'm really glad I played this piece for you. We've agreed that it's finished. And what do you think I should do next? Well, if that student has come to me, then the first thing I say is, okay, what kind of music do you like? And that can often stump them. Okay, Lori, I see your question. I'll get to that in just a second. So, it's okay, well, what piece do you think I should do next? Well, what kind of music do you like? Now, maybe I know the student well enough that I can answer that question and say, well, I know this is the kind of music you like, and these are some suggestions. But maybe I don't. And I will force that issue until the student owns up to liking something. Because if a student says, well, I don't know, anything's good. Do you like French music? Well, that's okay. Do you like, music that's like from the Baroque era? Well, that's okay. Do you like music that is just written for harp, or do you like transcriptions? Oh, I don't know. Well, let's hone in on something. You must choose. I think that having to choose a direction is very powerful. I don't think that it's a teacher's job, at least teaching an adult student. I don't think it's the teacher's job to choose a direction. I think giving guidance to enable a student to pursue that direction, the one that they want to pursue, in a way that will lead to the quickest and most satisfactory kind of progress and result, that's a teacher's job. But you have to be part of that process too, right? Okay, so that's just a quick thought. Maybe that will spur an idea too. But right now, Lori has a question. She's got trouble with coordinating her hands together, or at least she wants some advice on that. So left hand and right hand together. This comes back to what I have often said, which is remember that right hand alone plus left hand alone does not equal hands together, right? When one hand plays, we're focusing on kind of a single dimension. When we put hands together, we not only have two horizontal dimensions we're concerned with, but we have the vertical alignment as well. So, and that totally is, aside from getting all the coordination that any of these lines might need. So in a general sense, you have to remember that hands together is totally different than hands separately. Now, Lori's been in the harp mastery world for a long time, so I know she's heard me talk about this before. But in case you haven't been, this is something you need to be aware of. So you can practice right hand all you want and left hand all you want, and that still won't get you hands together. Doesn't matter. Which is why I say that from the very beginning of learning a piece, sure, look at the right hand alone, look at the left hand alone, but look at hands together at the same time, because hands together is different. It's just different. You have to look differently, think differently. Everything is different. So there are 3 different ways to learn, and you should be doing them all right from the beginning. Don't put off hands together until you've already learned the hands separately, because that's just lengthens your learning process, makes it unnecessarily slow. So if you accept that it's a different process, that's great. It doesn't help you put it together, correct? All right, so let's talk about actually getting them together. If there is a section where your hands won't go together, and maybe it's just the first 4 bars of a piece, you're thinking, okay, gosh, this is really hard and I don't know how to start this, and my hands aren't working together. Well, let's take the first 4 bars and let's check that each hand can play separately by itself. Another trick I like to use here is get your hands separately as close to tempo as quickly as you can, so that, if you can get your right hand to go pretty close to tempo and your left hand to go pretty close to tempo, that's great, because we want them to be sort of automatic, so that as we put them hands together, we can go much more slowly, because they're going to have to. So let's look at the first 4 bars, and I want you to think about playing the right hand for all 4 of those bars, and play the left hand for just the first measure. So maybe you need to take a couple minutes and work out that first measure, hands together, and say, all right, I'm going to play the left hand goes here, and you work it out slowly, count it, try to make it as even as possible. So it's like, okay, play 1 and 2 and 3 and work out that first measure a little bit. Counting is really essential here, because you need to know where they line up, and if you need where the hands line up, that is. And if you need to draw little connecting lines between the right hand and the left hand so you can see where everything fits, that's okay. So we do this, get that going, then say, I'm going to play the whole right hand, and I'm going to have my left hand play that first measure with it, and then my left hand gets to drop out. Then do your left hand for all 4 measures, and your right hand will play the first measure along with it, and then it gets to drop out. Then go to the last measure of that 4 measure section and learn that the same way. Make sure that you can get those hands together, and they work together nice and slowly. Then get your left hand all set on those strings, and play your right hand from the beginning, and have your left hand join you at the end of at the 4th measure. So your right hand's going to play measure 1, measure 2, measure 3, and then your left hand comes in with your right hand on measure 4. Reverse the process. Have your left hand play from the beginning, have your right hand join on measure 4. Then go back and do the same process, but with measures 1 and 4. My left hand's going to play measure 1, then it's going to reset while my right hand's playing, and it's going to join on measure 4. So now we're just going to creep into the middle, and you can add half a measure at a time if you want, or a measure at a time, but that will help you get that together. In a larger, sort of more over the span of time kind of time frame, always practice hands together, right? Never just work on a piece hands separately. Always do something hands together, so that even if you're starting a brand new piece, learn the first measure and the last measure. Well, maybe the last 2 measures, because sometimes the last measure is a whole note. So learn the first couple measures and the last couple measures hands together right away. Imagine what kind of a boost of confidence that'll give you if that's the first thing that you're working on. While you're learning the hands separately, that's okay. But learn those first 2 measures and last 2 measures, hands together. Ooh, that'll be helpful, right? Practice a little bit of hands together all the time. One other way to think about it, I told you there were different paths, so there's a whole bunch of different paths. So try, if there's a section of your piece you're practicing, play it hands together first, then do hands separately, then do hands together again, then move on to the next section that you're practicing, right? So there are a lot of ideas. Lori, did that answer some of your questions? I gave you probably more ideas than you wanted, but I hope that answered just a little bit. So it's always interesting to think about the different ways that we need to approach these things, because our harp playing has so many different components to it, right? So it has a lot to do with that. Any other quick questions? I've got 5 minutes left here. Lori said she's writing these down. Good reminders. Good. Okay. Well, I know that Lori's been in a My Heart Mastery member for a long time. She's been in coaching, so she's got lots of resources here. And sometimes we just need reminders. So Joseph, do you recommend any particular exercises for building strength and flexibility in the hands and fingers? There are lots of good exercises. The exercises that I learned first when I was a very young harp student are still the ones that I go to, and they're the Salzedo conditioning exercises. I do them very slowly. I mean, he gives you a tempo that won't help you with developing strength, although when you get to those tempos, your fingers are pretty darn flexible. But working on those slowly and really thinking about the mechanics and the way your fingers work, that gives you a really wonderful way to think about your tone and to think about how you can develop the strength and the relaxation, which, remember, relaxation is where our strength comes from. Strength in our playing comes from a relaxed finger and a full finger motion. Absolutely helps, that's where our strength comes from. So both of those things you absolutely need. So that's important, I think. I love the conditioning exercises, numbers 4, 5, and 6, for flexibility and working at different finger coordinations. Well, 2 and 3 actually as well. So I love those because it's such a concise, short set of exercises. There are 10 of them. That's it. But any exercises you do from any exercise book, you can work at strength by doing them slowly and thinking about full finger motion and relaxation, because that, and the arch of the finger, right? Don't have knuckles collapsing. It's the way you do the exercises that develop the strength. And the flexibility comes from doing the different patterns and asking your fingers to do different things and to do them at varied dynamics and at varied tempos. So just about any exercise set will work for that. It's the focus that you bring to them. Okay. Let's see. Lori says she's working on stuff with her coach this morning, so that's going to help. Cheryl says arm strengthening, anti-wing workouts. I'm not sure, Cheryl, what you mean by anti-wing. Arm strengthening, I always figured that just holding my arms up to play. Remember that your arms, whether you're an elbows up or an elbows down person, your arms, your upper arms, are your support system for your hands. That's what holds on to the strings, not your fingers. We need your arms to be the support for your hands, so that your hands can be loose and floppy. So this is going to take these shoulder muscles right in here and a little bit of triceps as well, but that's where this is going to come from. And so harp playing develops that. I've never felt like I needed to do anything else other than harp playing to develop those muscles. And I would love to know what you mean by anti-wing workouts. So the skin that hangs from the upper arms and wing. Oh, my friend, you mean like the little flappers under here that we all get? Tricep exercises, you can do those with weights. Talk to a trainer, do them at the gym. Don't hurt yourself. The harp playing won't fix that for you. It will keep it as, in tone as much as possible, but it has nothing to do with harp playing, because the tricep isn't something that we use a whole lot. We do when we extend our arm. That's some of that. And we do just a little bit from holding our arm up, but harp playing doesn't use that particular muscle all the time. So you have to get rid of those arm wings another way. But you'll get really nice shoulder muscles. Just remember that's the muscle that's working for you, holding your hands in place, not anything from your elbow to your fingertips. That's not doing that. So, because one more thought here, of course, because we don't use this muscle really when we play very much, and you can try it. I mean, just like do playing stuff and you'll feel it's still kind of flapping around. It's not doing a whole lot, right? So it's a pretty loose muscle when we're playing, or it should be. So you can tell that we don't have a whole lot to use there, a whole lot that we can do. But most strengthening exercises are going to work against your harp playing. I mean, unless they're at the harp exercises, right? It's they're more likely to hurt the little tendons that we need to use than they are to help. I work out with weights. I have free weights here at home that I work with all the time. But I use light enough weights that I know I'm not going to put pressure on my hands, my wrists, my fingers, my elbows. And I'm very careful with them. Been doing that for years. But I don't recommend weight training as a way to help your harp playing particularly. So what about finger strengthening like squeeze balls? Nope. They're really nice. I don't do them. I don't have anything around here that's like that. The strength we need for harp playing comes from harp playing. You don't need anything else. You just need to do your technique work the right way, right? The strength we get just from playing the strings is what's going to develop our strength. And if we're using our force, or if we're trying to strengthen our hand with something else, we're not going to help our harp playing, because nothing else is the same. Nothing else is the same. So you can do plenty of those things and they won't hurt you. Sometimes I've known people to, have hand strengtheners. Squeeze balls aren't going to hurt you, but they're not really going to help you either. Playing the harp is what helps playing the harp. What a surprise, right? Okay, well, I am going to let you go for today. And Cheryl says, interesting. I know it's not, other people have other things that they do. I've been playing the harp for, I won't tell you how long, over half a century I've been playing the harp, because it's a very long time. And all I did to strengthen my fingers was play the harp. I came to the harp extremely double jointed. I don't do that anymore. Still really double jointed. I had to learn to strengthen my knuckles. I strengthened all my fingers at the harp, playing the harp. Nothing else. You don't need anything else. What you need, my friends, is focus on this. Okay, that'll do it. All right, I'm going to let you go. For those of you who aren't aware, we have back to school night tonight. I hope you're all coming to that. This is just a fun 1-hour webinar with me and all the certified coaches. If you haven't registered for that, you should just go ahead and register quickly. Let's see, because it's tonight. Let me just put this up here. There you go. You can go to harpmastery.com and you can register there. Easy enough, but harpmastery.com/back-to-school with hyphens in there. So do register for that. It's going to be a really fun evening. I'm looking forward to that. And we'll do another one of these chats at some point. So I always love talking to people. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you all very soon, hopefully at back to school night tonight. All right, see you guys. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.